Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show, and welcome back to another game review. This time, the time-honored classic, one of the first, one of the best, one of the greatest sci-fi, I'm going to say gonzo games ever, that being Gamma World. I got this copy probably in the early 80s, and I played the heck out of it with my friends. I believe it came out in 1978, and this is my original copy I've been hanging on to for all those many years. I I also have Gamma World 2 and 3, and I had Alternity, but I sadly let that go, and I now regret that. But I'm just going to go into Gamma World 1 today, and next week I'll do a review of 2 and 3 with the bits and pieces that I do have, because I'm missing, like, obviously a couple of parts of it. But for the most part, let's just dive right into it. The cover art is absolutely stellar. I wish I had a T-shirt of this cover. If I can find one out there, I will get it. For conventions and things like that, just to, let my freak flag fly. This cover is just absolutely perfect in every way. It sums up everything except possibly the mutations, and there are some other covers and artwork that cover that. But for the most part, I truly believe that your best intro to Gamma World would be with a party of what's called pure strain humans. That being humans that have absolutely no mutations. They're just regular Joes trying to survive in this post-apocalyptic world of Gamma World. Right here on the top, I have the original map that has seen better days. Some of the creases are about ready to disintegrate, but I had it upside down. All over the map, there are what are the remnants of the United States with, I don't know if you can see it, there are little gold triangles that are supposed to, I'm guessing, denote ruins of ancient cities and facilities and, possibly military installations and things like that. But for the most part, I'm probably going to try and grab a copy of this map off Drive Through RPG just so I can file this one away and never touch it again. But back in the day, friends of mine who also had this game would mark all over it and you know name cities and locations on it. But I never did that, mostly because we, for the most part, stuck to a relatively small area. The basic rule book has a black and white version of the cover art, and it also has basically a hex grid with the TSR logo that you could easily photocopy and use for all sorts of purposes in this game. I know a lot of people prefer hexes. I'm really not one of those people. Some things hexes are good, other things not so much. But maybe we'll talk about that in a later episode. The rulebook is a scant 54 pages, I believe. 56 if you include the very last page. The back cover is just an advert for all of the products available at the time. And it's kind of fun to go through it every once in a while and go, oh, I wish I had that. Or, hey, I've got that. Like War of Wizards, I have that. Lankmar, I don't have that. Star Probe, I have. Star Empires, I have. Things like that. It's just a lot of fun to take yourself back into, you know, the late 70s, early 80s. Now, the game runs on your basic 3d6, actually 4d6 for character stat generations, and it has character stats that are more or less right along the lines of the original D&D, strength, IQ, things like that. And it's about there that it goes its own way in the way of rules. There are your basic character types, that being pure strain humans, mutated animals, and I think there's things in here for mutated plants, but I don't really believe that that's actually a character option. I think it was later on, but it just seems a little bit, you know, a little too much unless you really roll up something, with the mutations that allows you to, get up and go. Otherwise, you're stuck in a giant flower pot, and your friends have to carry you around, and I think that would be kind of a drag. The mutations, and there are quite a few of them, are not always great. Some of them can instantly ruin a chance at a good character. However, sometimes you'll get lucky and get other mutations that will counteract or make it worthwhile to play a character like that. But this game, right off the bat, lets you know that certain kinds of characters you could roll up are just hopeless, absolutely. And I think there's a really good picture that illustrates that point right here. I would absolutely never want to run that character. If you guys can get a good look at that, he's got feet for hands and just absolutely hideous in every respect, and just the epitome of hopeless and basically a worthless character that you would never ever want to run. Now the mutations are marked with a D for defect, and there is a % chance you roll to see which mutations you get. I think you get a D for physical and or mental mutations, and trust me, a lot of them are incredibly powerful mutations. Now your characters start off using their Constitution score as their base hit points. So if you have a 10 Constitution, you roll 10d6 for your hit points, and that can give you quite a few hit points right off the bat. You could easily have over 50 hit points at the beginning, but mind you, the weapon damages are, while some of them are very comparable to Dungeons and Dragons style damage, and you can, as per the Dungeon Master's Guide and this book itself, bring your characters from one game to another, that being like going through a portal and ending up in a Dungeons and Dragons world, or vice versa, and that could be a lot of fun. But I recommend that you really explore the world of Gamma World quite a bit before you let your Dungeon Master, Shanghai you into a D&D world, or vice versa. It's just there's too much opportunity to get stuck in the new game that you didn't sign up for. If you're a D&D character and suddenly you're stuck in Gamma World, there's a good chance you're going to want to get home as quick as possible and not want to spend but a few seconds there with things like poisons, that being like gases and foods and things like that can kill you outright, radiation that can mutate you further if you're already mutated, or mutate you into things and appearances that you just absolutely despise. And depending on your Constitution score will determine how well you can survive that. The book has a nice section of approximately 50 different alien monstrosities, races, and creatures you can come across. Basically, the Gamma World version of the Monster Manual. There's one of the classics. I think it's a sleesh, something like that. Basically, a giant weasel with wings and mandibles, and just there's all kinds of interesting mutated animals and peoples. Let me see if I can find the classic Hoop picture, because there's another classic. The Hissers, basically Snake Man or Yuan Ti from Dungeons and Dragons, but in this instance, they're just mutated animals that have become a society of their own, and while not overtly evil or anything like that, you could see how they would not really want to hang out with normal, especially pure strain humans or other beings that aren't like themselves. But of course, my favorite was the Hoops, and there's absolutely no other picture that really sums up Gamma World, I think, than this one. They're giant, furry, white rabbits, armed to the teeth, quite militaristic in personalities, and just a lot of fun to try to have to, talk your way past them as opposed to fight them, because, nobody wants to get into a fight and lose to a bunch of bunnies. I know I wouldn't, and yeah, I have run into them quite a bit. Now, the real joy in this game is the finding of ancient artifacts left over from the old days. And this chart right here, or these three flow charts, determine whether or not you figure out the item and understand it and can use it regularly as basically a magic item, or whether you end up disintegrating your hand or losing an eye or something worse. And this works, for all the different, low tier, medium tier, high tier technological devices, everything from, revolvers to interstellar vehicles that you could literally leave the planet with. And some of those are actually really fun. Some of the vehicles, what was one of them? The environmental car and the bubble cars, they literally are traveler-esque sort of, anti-gravity vehicles that would let you, go and visit the moon, which I'm going to touch on in just a moment. But there's a nice list of, I want to say, about 50 to 60 technological devices that all the rules are included, including robots and things like that, power armor and other things like that, vibroblades and, like I said, robots that, are actually pretty high tech, because this game is based on the assumption that humanity rose to a certain elevated technological level and then did themselves in and ruined their world, and then you are then in the world of Gamma World, radiation and talking plants and things like that. And there are quite a few adventure modules, some of which I'm still trying to collect, and some of them I've run, some of them I have not. And I'm going to quickly go over the first most well-known modules, that being Legion of Gold, where the local population is being attacked by these giant gold humanoid robots, and the party is tasked with trying to discover, what their motivations are, how to stop them, and how to, bring peace to your homestead, your valley, wherever the player characters and people live. And it's actually a very interesting but very challenging adventure. I have lost many a character trying to survive this particular module, many characters. And I've seen a few parties make it through alive and solve the quest and get the reward at the end. And then there's, it's actually in here, the deeper, I think. Oh no, it's over here. That being Famine in Fargo. I'm assuming that takes place somewhere near Fargo, North Dakota, where the party is also given a task, and unfortunately the nemesis in this game, in this module, are giant mutated one-eyed chickens, also very militaristic. And if you succeed, there are many a reward to be reaped from this. This module also has some expanded rules for running pure strain humans to make them a little bit more survivable in this game, because they really start out with no advantages compared to mutated humans and animals, but both are absolutely very fun adventures. And if you are going to play a game of Gamma World, I recommend you run them more or less in order if you can. Sometimes that's not necessary, because going through one module or the other can really boost your levels up rather quickly, to where one or the other might no longer be, a fitting challenge. But for the most part, they're both really, really good adventures. I also have both versions of the early referee screen, and I think one of them, and that being this one, came with a very nice introductory module that actually takes you into outer space to the moon, I believe. And you can see that this one was highly influenced by the release of the Alien movie, or maybe it was Saturn V, but it's got that really high-tech looking cover, whereas this one has your classic Earl Otis artwork that is also very indicative of Gamma World. And both screens, basically have all the same information that you would need as a GM to run these games. And I definitely recommend having these, because with the modules, you definitely need to be able to have your maps out and keep that information, away from prying eyes of players. Unfortunately, I no longer have the original dice, and if I do have them, they're mixed in with some other dice, then it would be impossible for me to say that these are Gamma World dice versus my original basic Dungeons and Dragons dice. Although I think those are still in the original bag and in my box behind me. But I really recommend you guys, if you haven't tried this game, going along with the dystopian theme of the month, give this game a try if you can. If you can't and you think it's a little too spendy on eBay, go check out Drive Through RPG. It's very affordable. You know, you're really just paying for the price of printing and maybe a little bit extra, you know, because they've got so many products. And that's what they do, is reprint classic old games and modules and supplements. And for me, I am really glad I kept this all these years. And just reading up and going through this and watching a few other videos out there, especially RPG Elite, a new channel I discovered recently. Incredibly professional individuals over there. They do absolutely great jobs on all of their videos, but they really were my go-to for watching videos to prepare for this. But it really makes me want to run a game of Gamma World, even if it's just a one-shot. I have a different take on character starting, you know, point and party, and I'm hoping to get a chance to run that, you know, hopefully online with some old Gamma World players or some new Gamma World players who've never played it and, you know, want to get the feel of this really, really, you know, kind of kooky game. It's you know, it's one of the originals in my opinion. I know there may be, you know, a few other games that came out alongside it or before it, but when it came to science fiction, this was one of the first and one of the best. Hope you guys will give it a try. Let me hear what you guys think in the comment section, or, you know, maybe later on in one of the live streams we're going to do. But until then, guys, have a great afternoon. Enjoy your summer, and I'll see you guys real soon. Bye, everybody.